that transphobia is just misogyny with extra steps. There is not a single person on this earth who is capable of being a transphobe without also being a sexist piece of shit.
You sure about that?
You sure about that?
No.
Welcome to part 2 of my probably 5-part coverage of comments made about me by Ember on the Better Than Ember show, along with AJ and some guy. So here we are. We are in the midst of discussing, well, they are discussing Maria McLaughlin, who was assaulted at Speaker's Corner, I believe in 2017. So this is almost a decade ago. And Ember has made the claim that the men that assaulted Maria McLaughlin were teens. They were not. The primary assailant, Tara Wolf, was about 24, 25 when this occurred. And so these are in no way teens. Yet Ember did not do his due diligence to investigating this and is just running his mouth, making false allegations against Maria. And we'll see what else we get into. Thank you so much for joining. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Even if you want to say something negative, that's fine. If you're going to insult me, just, have some reasoning behind your comment as well, your criticism. So let's get into it.
With that picture painted, and it's no wonder that Logan looks up to her because he's trying so hard to be a step up the old block.
Heroes don't wear capes. Some heroes don't wear capes. Some assault teenagers.
Just in case you are familiar with the previous video, I will go over this again. Again, this is, I don't know if this is what I previously cited, but it is from something called the Feminist Current. So, there could be bias in the article, but I'm assuming the facts are true. So, Tara Wolf, trans-identified male. So, yeah, I think I did use this one before because I was laughing how they used my terminology. Or terminology I agree with, was convicted. Okay, that means a court of law looked into this and said that he was guilty. Tara Wolf about to strike because Mariah is holding a 20-year-old something that had already knocked her camera to the ground, and she was trying to keep him from reaching it because she claims that he was trying to get at her camera and break it further. So that's why she was grappling with him. And in the UK, you can make a citizen's arrest. And I don't think Maria did that or did announce that. I don't know if you have to announce it. I would think you would have to, but I'm not sure. But you are allowed to put hands on somebody to hold them in a citizen's arrest. Tara Wolf attended a meeting that said, we need to talk about gender. Tara Flickwood stood trial for striking a 60-year-old. So again, this is a mid-20s assaulting a woman, a 60-year-old woman. Assault by beating, battery. 2-day trial began on April 12th. This article is from the 27th of April on 2018. So I'm assuming April 12th, it was a pretty quick trial. 24 individuals, mostly with a mask on, accompanied Wolf to court. Why? Why do you have to have your mask on? Many were wearing all black uniform of Antifa, replete with bandanas and sunglasses. Most belong to a group known as Class War, an anarchist organization that Wolf is also a member of. Others were members of Sisters Uncut, a group originally formed, ironically, to fight cuts to domestic violence services that now focuses energy on protesting and trying to shut down meetings women have been organizing of late to discuss gender identity legislation and women's sex-based rights. 3 of Wolf's supporters brought fighting dogs, Dobermans and Mastiff, as well as a huge sound system blaring death metal. Half stayed outside the court, half came in. The machismo of all that was palpable. There's that non-objective reporting, but they provide pictures as evidence. Somewhere it says how old Wolf was. Here is Wolf's post. Looks maybe on Facebook. I'm not sure. Any idea where this was when Wolf learned about the event and wanted to know where it was happening. I want to F up some TERFs. They are no better than fash, whatever that means in British speak. Help me get my voice surgery. Hi, I'm Tara, a 25-year-old trans woman. So again, mid-20s, assaulted a 60-year-old woman. Wolf claimed his punches to McLaughlin's back, so he does admit it. At least he's man enough to do that. And face were an attempt to defend his former girlfriend from McLaughlin. Okay, so a 60-year-old woman has a hold of a 20-something-year-old. And, you're a man and you really need to hit a woman to get their hands off. You don't need to do that. You do not need to do that, especially, if the person is not at harm. They're just being held. Grab the woman's hands, grab Maria's hands, pull them off, pry them off. That's all you had to do. I mean, this is all very simple. But no, Tara chose. Oh, look, here's these women that that support men in their spaces. I bet they don't. So there's more to go on, but still, Ember spoke in ignorance and made a fool of himself by claiming, and really the person just speaking was AJ. So AJ should not be listening to Ember, because listening to Ember made AJ sound like a fool as well.
All right.
That is fascinating.
Now with all that interlude, I hope y'all are enjoying so far.
I am.
We can get to the actual video. And this is Logan's video. You may notice from the runtime, I've cut it down significantly. There's a few reasons for this. Logan spends the first part of his video arguing with the chat. Like the chat who was there at the time, not me and AJ. I cut a big chunk of that out. I left a few things in because there's a few points I want to make and a few things that are kind of funny. But I cut a big chunk of that out because it has nothing to do with anything. Then he spends another big chunk about the Bible. Okay.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Ember. It's not all about you. But, I saw some things in the chat that I thought needed to be addressed. And, the chat is for talking with other people in the chat. So I was looking at that. And, as far as talking about the Bible, you brought it up and you made errors in talking about the Bible, speaking with this authority. Well, I guarantee, honey, I got more authority on the Bible than you do. Ooh, sucks, don't it? And it's kind of ironic that most of the previous video and a little bit of this one that I've made is you talking about Maria. And I had to cut stuff of you talking about Maria when they had nothing to do with me. But that's okay, Ember. You be hypocritical.
It was a long time, yeah. And there it is again, trans entitled men.
Yeah, this is
Whatever the
So
fuck that
this
means.
is opening screen.
trans entitled men.
It says, for those of you who may be having trouble seeing it, it says, be aware that when I, this is Logan's print up here, make fun or otherwise criticize trans entitled men, I'm not making fun of a minority. Men are literally not a minority. Logic, right? Like, black men aren't black because they're men. Asian men aren't Asian because they're men. Gay men aren't gay because they're men. And also, there's no men on this show. But never mind that.
Oh, Ember. Again, you're so dumb. I mean, that I hate to say that, but that is just the proper word to use in this context. Asian men are men. Black men are men. These are all adjectives to describe them further from just the biological classification and being a member of a species, or being one half of a member of a species, basically. But trans women are not women, they're men. They're literally men, okay? And the only way you can use trans with women with just that little phrase is if it's a privative adjective. It means that women is not being used the way it's supposed to be used. You are intentionally altering the meaning of woman. That's because they are men. So if you want to talk about logic, Ember, in logic, you have to be univocal. Your words always have to mean the same thing. So in your world, men sometimes means a biological man, and sometimes means a biological man that thinks he's a woman. But then woman would be the opposite. Sometimes it's a biological woman, and sometimes it's a man that thinks he's a woman. And you do not understand logic, Ember. Go look up univocal, search univocal in philosophy, and you will understand that you need to maintain consistent terms. This is what you do in logic. But you, who claim to not be a man, despite the fact there are photographic evidence to the contrary, you're kind of in a tumble.
I wonder if he just doesn't believe in women. AJ, do you think he imagines that you're also a man, that all women are delusional about being women? That women, in fact, isn't even a legitimate category. All humans are just men. Some just make babies. Who's to say?
Actually, that could potentially be true in your world. If every single person identified as men, then some men would get pregnant, Ember. That's actually in your world. So no, I'm not saying that every woman who claims to be a woman is not a woman. I'm saying there's a fact in the world that makes a person a man or a woman. And these facts are some are things we can measure and evaluate in 99.9% of cases to establish their sex. So Ember, you're actually just made a fool of yourself because you have to acknowledge that in your world, everybody could be one or the other. And how are you going to dispute that? Because in your world, it's all identity, correct? And, honey, anytime you want to talk about science, bring it. Bring it. Okay. I'm sure people like Emma Hilton are just so stupid about this and they don't know the science, right? But you do because you're a photographer. Last night I had the occasion while I was heading out to the grocery inn to get dinner to get a notification that Skeptic Haven was having
Wait, can you pause it for a second? Do you know he points out that he was on the way to get dinner because we asked him so many times throughout the about 2 hours of the show to call in, and he kept saying, no, I can't, I'm busy. So he has to make it clear because, he has his alibi as to why he didn't call.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he was in chat for the whole freaking show, but he was very busy.
Yeah.
At best, this is hyperbole. At worst, this is flat out lying. As you can see here is the show. I popped in at 4:32 just after it started. Just like I said, I was walking into Kroger and checked my phone and saw the notification. And I usually listen to stuff at Kroger, so I turned this on and started listening to it. And there it is. So you can see I popped in at 4:32 of an hour and a half show. My first comment, there it is. Please stay out of women's spaces if you are male. Then you can see at 42 minutes, it's a little over a half hour later, I said, I'm done. I said, leaving now. You can exist in the men's room. That's with all the commentary from either the show or in the chat. And I think this Bree Badger is another man. I'm not sure, but I think there's another man. Now, I wanted to point out, this just popped in my head. I wanted to make sure I said this in this video, that if I jumped on here and was saying stuff to Ember about being a man, which apparently I wouldn't think Ember cares about my opinion, but there it is. Because apparently he's very offended at being called a man. Well, your fan, I'd never heard of you before. And I was in some other chat somewhere and someone said, this guy needs to talk to Ember. And I said, who's Ember? And they said a trans woman. Okay. So you're not even clear. It's not even clear to your fans what you are. So it's not exactly my fault, but you need to recognize that. Anyway, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. 35 minutes about, I was driving around and going to Kroger and went to have dinner and said, I'm leaving now. And that's it. So no, it was not the entire show. Hyperbole or lying. Or I guess the third option would be, make sure you double check yourself before you make yourself look like a fool. And I know this stuff because, I can make myself look like a fool. I do it often enough that I know what it feels like. So have fun with your falsehoods.
It's people who believe that women are lesser or deserve to be mistreated, and they hate women who aren't women, trans men, because they leave that. They gain male privilege when they transition. And it breaks their entire system that there are trans women, people who are born with male privilege and give it up to live authentically. Because they'd rather be happy than have the privilege, And they're like, this doesn't make sense.
That's one thing I have always said. And it's like, who the fuck would wish to be a woman in this patriarchal society that we live in and how women are treated? Like, I'm so sorry, but no. But you are. So it's like, you have to be yourself. You have to be authentic.
Opinion noted. However, concerning myself, and I think most other quote unquote TERFs that agree with me, no one's denying that you can't live your authentic self, and no one is denying that you can't abandon whatever privilege or perhaps deceive yourself into taking privilege that should be, not as prevalent as it is. However, we're saying you need to respect the culture's sex-based boundaries. Instead, you guys want to say, no, we're not going to do that. We are going to infringe upon the rights of women and men in their sex-based boundaries in sports. We are going to tell you how to utilize your language. We are going to tell you that woman does not mean adult human female anymore. It means you identify as a woman. So if you are an adult human female that identifies as a woman, then you are a woman. However, if you are an adult human female that identifies as a man, then you are a man. So please get over this stuff about anyone denying you your authentic self and your right to exist. Just respect the boundaries that society has and that we have for a reason.
People don't know until later in life. Very often. That's true in my case because, medical meddling when I was an infant notwithstanding, despite there were a lot of anomalies about my body growing up, I didn't know until I was midway through my transition. Now, this is a fun story. I've told it before, but I'll keep it short. When I was trying to update my documents as part of my transition, I ran into a little bit of a wall. I couldn't update my gender marker because I was assigned female at birth.
So Ember is claiming to have been assigned female at birth, which would mean they're not a trans person. Interesting. Okay.
Back with a question.
However,
Hold up. He's back with a question in the chat right now. He said, "What is the DSD?" I think he's asking about your diagnosis, which you do not have to share.
No, one doesn't. To be clear, nobody is required to share their medical information with any other person. It's
Mhm.
your medical information. You don't have to. Also, DSD is not the correct term. We use intersex. DSD is used by people who want to pathologize and dehumanize us, to break us down into nothing but a diagnosis. We're fucking people. We are intersex people. Thank you.
Okay, I did not know that, so thank you so much for sharing that.
oh, poor widow Ember. Well, I really don't care what you prefer. You really shouldn't be insulted by this. I mean, this is another case of you being overly sensitive. Lots of people have disorders of different types, and we call those disorders. And what DSDs are in respect to your sexual development, they are mutations. Okay, as far as I know, every single one is a mutation. As far as I know, you cannot have a DSD. And if you want, you can just call it a difference of sexual development. But I don't think we need to change the nomenclature because some people with disorders don't want to accept that they have disorders. So here's the Cleveland Clinic. So what are they? Which person has characteristics of both sexes? Characteristics can happen due to chromosomal, gonadal, or genital differences. They can appear at birth, during puberty, or later in adulthood. There are all kinds. There are AIS, CAH, Kalman syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, McCune-Albright syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, Swyer syndrome, Turner syndrome. So there are all sorts of symptoms. And so here we are, genetic mutations. I do know a lot of them are genetic mutations. Developmental issues, just like there are developmental issues that lead to other disorders in fetuses and babies. Okay. Exposure to certain hormones or medications. It's just like other disorders that are caused by certain hormones and medications. Hormone insufficiencies, just as there are disorders caused by hormone insufficiencies. But for some reason, you guys think you need to be special. Okay. You are not special in the sense that you do not have a disorder. You have a disorder. I'm sorry. I hope they solve it. And here's the thing. If they could solve it, would you go back to yourself, your baby self, your fetus self, and do it? If you could do that? If you were having a child and the doctor said, hey, they have CAIS, would you let them correct that mutation? If you would, you're a hypocrite. If you wouldn't, you're cruel. And again, we can go to the University of California, disorders of sexual differentiation. I can't talk. Again, they explain it all. And we go to the NHS in the UK, whom I think are very favorable to trans persons. They say differences. So again, like I think they're more catering to trans persons, as is variations in sex characteristics, or diverse sex development. Well, some people prefer these. Notice it says some people, Ember. And those of us, I'm bald. I recognize it's not even a disorder, but I recognize that I'm bald, and I don't want people to call me interfolio. What's the word for interfollicle person? I don't insist people call me an interfollicle person, Ember. Wow. I mean, you want to be special, and that might be a reason that you left manhood, so you could be special, because us white men, we're not special. And here we go. This hospital, Norton's Children's, disorders of sexual developments. Oh, there's a whole bunch. Some I've never heard of. Mosaicism. But note what is not listed here. Just pay attention to what is not listed here. Starts with a CH. It's not here. Pay attention.
I will, however, say what is going on with me. What the hell is the term? Chimerism. I'm fused twins.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, fused twins, chimeric fused twins, which is to say twins, identical twins split. One embryo becomes two. In my case, it's two embryos became one. Now, they don't always have different sex chromosomes, but in my case, they did.
Fascinating.
It is. It's really weird. And it also explains a lot of weird things about my body.
I don't know.
Okay, so Ember has told us that he has chimericism. And it's kind of funny that Ember couldn't remember that term, despite the fact he claims to have it. I mean, I would think that would be at the tip of your tongue. It's kind of strange. But chimerical fused twins, tetragrammatic chimerism occur when two separate fraternal embryos fuse in the womb, resulting in a single individual with two distinct sets of DNA. It's a rare condition that merges distinct genetic profiles into one person. There sometimes are outward signs, but I think that's rare. So let's note, first of all, and I've investigated this separately off video, chimerism does not entail having a DSD. Having a DSD does not entail chimerism. Okay? So if Ember is claiming that just his chimerism makes him have a DSD, that is false. So this is the only thing Ember has presented. Taylor Moll has, these are people. Taylor Moll, a singer who discovered she had two sets of DNA with noticeable skin pigmentation. Vanishing twin case, a man in a paternity dispute was found to have absorbed his twin with the twin's DNA in his sperm. Microchimerism, a related, more common phenomenon where cells exchange between mother and fetus. But let's just take note that this does not mean you have a DSD. It is not even close to having a DSD. A DSD is a mutation. So if Ember has a DSD, it is not my business, but until I actually see evidence of that, I can only go on the evidence I have. And unlike Ember and AJ and whoever that other guy is, I don't accept things, especially when they are this rare, just because people say they have them. Okay, if somebody said, I got my finger cut off, that could happen. That's not out of the realm of probability. But if somebody says, I'm a chimera and I have a DSD, that's combining things which result in lower odds. So Ember, if you do have an actual DSD, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that if this chimerism has resulted in, well, it's obviously resulted in something. I don't understand how your parents did what they did if your birth certificate says female and then they made you look male. I don't understand. But I'm sorry about all that, but that does not mean you, Ember, have a DSD.
So here's what he said on that stream, that Who Decides Gender show. I forget if it starts at the bottom or starts at the top. It's not that important, but these are all his comments, just his comments that were all when you time somebody out, all their previous comments go into the trash bin, but we can see all of them. And so right here, I'd be happy to schedule a thing in chat. There we go. That's laughable because you area man, Ember, and you.
Area.
And then down here, Ember, please stay out of sex-based spaces and sports that are for females. Okay, in fairness, that one isn't directly transphobic. It just implies it. But straight up calling me a man. Okay, in fairness, it's not transphobic. It's transmisogynist, which is a slightly different term because it doesn't come out of fear. It comes out of hatred. It's the verbal equivalent of a hate crime. But also, He does not know at this point I'm intersex. He's making assumptions about people he doesn't even know to get his 8 hard-on on.
So it's not only insulting, it's stupid.
Exactly.
Sorry, Ember. Even if you were a woman, you would not get me hard. Ugh. Well, as far as transphobia and transmisia, neither one are correct because I don't fear trans people and I don't hate them. All I say is, as Ember just cited, men need to stay out of women's spaces. They need to respect a woman's no. Now, not that the intent of this video was to address respecting a woman's no, but Ember has a hard path to go to explain why men cannot respect a woman's no, and vice versa, if there are cases that may be, which I'm sure there are. But primarily, this no represents a demonstrated asymmetry of harm that exists between the sexes. When it comes to one harming the other, men are more prone to do it. Trans-identified men are still men. They do not get some special mental characteristic that other men do not have that stops them, that inhibits them from exhibiting the same pattern of harm to other individuals. Sadly, that's the way we men are. It's part of the reason, stems partly from that we're bigger, we're stronger, and that's our job. Our job is to defend our tribe and to defend our property, which sadly, in the past used to be women and children. But that's why it's there. So just because you don't like what somebody says does not make it fear. Just because you don't like what somebody says does not make it hate. Okay? I am treating men as men and women as women. Now, in many situations, those are equal. Ember is going to try to strawman me and say I'm a misogynist and I'm a sexist. Opinion noticed. As you said, you're saying those things without knowing me. So, Ember, it's okay for you to say things about me without knowing me. But no, you're making the assumption that just because I tell men they need to respect sex-based boundaries, respect a woman's no, you are saying I have to be misogynistic. I'm not being misogynistic. I'm supporting women that say no to these men. That's what they do, Ember. And you're telling those women, sorry, you need to allow men into your spaces or you're a bigot. So who's using manipulation, Ember? Who's using manipulation to go against the wishes of women? I'm going to make a video that actually shows a lot of women that are either appeared publicly or in the public sphere about this. One of the best is recently I've discovered is Amy E. Sousa. Maybe you guys should contact Amy. Amy is going to have office hours. I don't know if her office hours will be for people that disagree with her, but maybe they would be. There's Helen Joyce. There's on Edge of the Matrix. You can often see women come up and say, I agree, trans women are men. There's their favorite, Riley Gaines. There's plenty of women that agree with me, and I've asked women, and they are fine with me representing their ideas as long as they're accurate. And as far as I know, they are accurate. Now, yes, there are women that want to allow men into women's spaces, but those women, you do not have a transferable consent. AJ cannot consent for other women. If AJ is doing that, then you really need to look at who is being misogynistic and who is supporting the patriarchy, because trans-identified men are part of the patriarchy. They have said, we will now be women, and any woman that says otherwise is a bigot. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time. Again, please like, subscribe, comment. Even if you disagree with me, you can comment. You can yell at me and insult me, but please just have an argument along with that. I really just don't like it when people just insult each other. I am happy to debate this issue. I'm happy to debate religion. If anybody wants to do that, please contact me. You can either comment under the video or my email is on my channel. Everyone have a nice day, and please check out part 3 probably about a week or so. Thank you.